Good morning, everyone. We are Team Haas Innovators Guild from UC Berkeley, and we are here to present how PNC can improve energy efficiency and climate resiliency in affordable housing for low to moderate income communities through our solution, Green Home Loan. So many essential professionals, such as educators, firefighters, sorry, I forgot to move to the next screen. So many essential professionals often earn an income that sits between two extremes. They earn too high to qualify for affordable housing or too low to afford market rate housing, especially in California. So these groups then end up living in small and old apartments which are not energy efficient and are also more prone to climate disasters. So currently in San Francisco Bay Area, only 15% of homes are for essential professionals that is affordable. And these professionals, just calling out again, their income is between 60% to 150% of area median income. These groups spend more than 30% of their income on rent. And if this trend continues, by 2025, there will be shortage of around 29,000 of units required by these essential professionals for rent. Okay. Since many essential professionals are renters, apartment building owners need to be involved to solve shortage of affordable climate resilient housing by upgrading old apartments. So we are targeting apartment building owners in California that own buildings more than 25 years old, have less than 100 units, and their tenants are mostly essential professionals. These owners face a lot of obstacles currently. First, split incentive problem. So most of these landlords who are responsible for making these investments in affordable housing, they don't get a lot in cost energy savings. It's mostly for tenants. And there's not a lot of incentive involved for these owners because there's not a lot of financial returns for them through these projects. Second, even when they are willing to invest in these projects, there's not a lot of cost-effective funding to make these projects feasible for them. Last but not the least, energy burden. This is for both the owners and the tenants. They end up paying a lot of money for the energy cost, even though they consume least amount of energy overall. So far, we have discussed about two important and two main stakeholders, essential professionals and apartment building owners, who are facing a lot of issues and which is causing this huge housing gap. Now let's talk about how PNC can bridge this gap through a solution, Green Home Loan.
PNC's Green Home Loan solution is a comprehensive and sustainable solution that is a win-win for both apartment building owners and PNC, which will in turn benefit low to moderate income renters. So first, the apartment building owners are able to borrow the full cost of upgrades, and there are many elements of this loan program that enable apartment building owners to mobilize construction workers quickly so they can get these upgrades started as soon as possible. One is that apartment building owners are able to draw on the loan as needed, so when apartment building units become empty or as they need, they can draw on the loan. And also, PNC is able to pay contractors directly, which means that apartment building owners don't have to find upfront capital on their own in order to pay the contractors. So this way, they can get the contractors started as soon as possible. And there will be an assessment before and after the upgrade to make sure that the upgrades are effective. And another feature as well is that this is an unsecured loan with full recourse to the apartment building owner, which means that yes, while we are relying on the apartment building owners to repay the loan, this means that they don't have to get approval from all the existing lenders currently having interest in the property in order to get started with these upgrades. And also the apartment building owners will be able to repay this loan over the life of the upgrades, which means there's alignment there between when these upgrades will have their benefits versus when they have to repay back the loan. And this, lastly, one of the big benefits as well is that This loan is relatively affordable relative to other options on the market, such as, for example, a line of credit. This will have a fixed interest rate over the course of the loan at 7.7%, and this is actually based on PNC's cost of capital, which I'll get into a little bit later. And also, this will provide predictability for the borrowers as well. So there is a win-win for several reasons here. The first is that the investors who are providing the capital in order to even give out these loans are actually coming from PNC's Green Bond program, and this will ensure that these investors get a return on their investment, and also this will help PNC share the risk, since they are sharing the risk with not only PNC, but also the investors who participate in the bond program. In addition, the apartment building owners are able to get a relatively affordable loan that they can mobilize quickly in order to get these upgrades done in a time-efficient manner so that they can therefore continue their operations as smoothly as possible. And lastly, this program is sustainable because it is designed to ensure that PNC can cover all of its costs, including marketing, employees, developing online systems, things of that sort. So overall, it is a win-win for all these stakeholders. And I do want to highlight in particular, there are a couple specific benefits for PNC. One is that under the Community Reinvestment Act, PNC needs to deploy part of its investments towards affordable housing, and this will significantly help PNC achieve that goal. And the second is that PNC can serve new customers that they don't serve currently, and also for their existing base of real estate lending customers, they can offer this product and do more business with their existing customers. So with all that said, there are a lot of benefits for both apartment building owners and PNC, which will then in turn benefit renters that are in low or moderate income. And I want to make sure I touch on for a moment here why apartment building owners would want to undertake these upgrades, and specifically why they would want to borrow money in order to do these upgrades. There are several key benefits that these owners will realize. The primary one is that they will be able to better retain tenants because unlike their competing buildings, these will have lower utility costs, which means that it's more affordable for tenants. And also, tenants will have a more comfortable and safe living environment, which is especially hard to find in a lot of older apartment buildings. And for the apartment owners themselves, they will also have lower operating and maintenance costs because a lot of key building systems have been upgraded to the most efficient and modern standards. And with this extended building life and better conditioned building, in the event they wish to ever sell, they'll have an enhanced sale value, and it will be easier for them to sell. And this loan is assumable, so in the event they do need to sell, the next owner who is creditworthy could take over the loan. So with all this said, there are a lot of benefits across all our stakeholders, and I want to make sure I turn it over to Amal, who's going to present our timeline and go-to-market strategy.
So for our go-to-market strategy, we want to focus on California just because of the reasons mentioned by my colleague, especially because there is a need for affordable housing for essential professionals over there. That's why we have a 4-year plan in front of you over here. So by next year, we would like to secure approval to deploy PNC's green bond funding and internal capital to start this program. By next year, like 2024, 2025, we would like to establish relationships with community partners. And by community partners, I mean NGOs and also construction people who will help PNC find the right customer and also help in pre- and post-assessment. Later on, we would like to develop a green home portal, which will be a one-stop solution that will help to have better integration between the customer and PNC. By doing all of this, we will be able to have, we would want PNC to develop internal capacity and also like key program KPIs that they would need. If all of this goes well, by 2026, we would like to roll out in California in the 10 key markets. And after reviewing that and improving the product, by 2029, we would like to go national. Next slide, please. So here are the 10 cities that we have figured out in California, which is Sacramento, Fresno, Tracy, Ontario, Linwood. The reasons why we have chosen this is because they are in California, and the density of multifamily homes is a lot higher than the other parts of California, and also the population of essential workers, which is a key stakeholder. And if you will also see, they are in proximity to PNC's current branches. We are trying to reduce the infrastructure costs that would be needed by PNC to deploy this product. And also, we are covering the north, south, west, and east of California. So these branches and these products can act as a center point, and we can cover everyone and every part of the city. On the right, there are some financial projections for 10 years. So in California, we expect to start deploying from 2026 and nationwide by 2029. We plan to deploy $420 million from the PNC Green Bond Fund, which is about 1/3 of the whole cost. The interest rate to customers will be 7.75, and the cost of capital will be about 4.75. We plan to deploy loans of about 6,000, and with the average loan size of 75,000. The net income by doing all of this will give you $8 million, and also there will be carbon credits that will be worth millions. Next slide, please. So for the purpose of this case, we did more than 20 plus interviews. We talked to several real estate companies like Retech, Revalue, who are in the remodeling and improvement space. And we also talked with several people within PNC to understand the loan structure and how you are doing your loans today. We also had help with UC Berkeley professors and housing communities over there who helped us understand what is the real need of the customer. Next slide, please. So just to summarize today, we talked about how PNC can help improve the climate resilience with several complications that are about the upfront cost and how the financing is expensive for landlords. The solution that we came up with is the Green Home Loan, which have appealing prices and better leasing terms. As next steps, we would like to partner with communities and different people and launch it in California in the near future. Thank you.
Hi, how did you develop the assumptions on the interest rates?
I can take that one. Let me make sure there's a... Yes. So the PNC Green Bond Fund that just closed in early 2023 for the first 3 years, although it gets floating after, has to pay investors the 4.758% shown on the slide. So that's the cost of capital. And then what we did is we added a spread on top of that because PNC has employee costs, the marketing costs, the portal costs, so that we added a 3% spread, and that's how we got to the 7.758% interest rate.
And just to add to that, we also looked at the comparable prices that these landowners will get, like personal line of credit or personal loans. They are from 10 to 15%, depending upon the house quality. So we are trying to keep it competitive.
So I actually had a related question. So you call it a fixed term loan. It seems like the loan behaves more like a equity line of credit. So what are the terms and how can you maintain a fixed rate when it behaves on a draw basis? And how do you deal with the repayment of it and things like that?
Yes, so you are correct. There is a bit of a construction loan draw or line of credit draw element to it. So the goal is that there will be a specific period of how long you can take in order to fully draw down the loan. I think that would need to be somewhat case-by-case basis, depending on how many units they need to go through, things like that. But if you withdraw down the loan in that specific period, then the repayment, it'll basically go perm right away to the fixed 7.58%. So that way you don't have to worry about what the terms of repayment will be once you start drawing down the loan.
And just to add, the reason we gave a little flexibility is because immediately you don't need all the funds, and that keeps adding the interest rate. So maybe spreading it over a year when the whole reconstruction is happening, and especially with multifamily homes, they do not do it all together. So that's the reason we have given a little flexibility.
How are you going to enforce rent control and not be a part of the problem? So it seems like you're creating these really great buildings, but they might just default into jacking up the rent.
Yes.
So so we did talk about that. That's a valid concern. So what initially we thought about is spreading the benefits that we're getting between the tenants and landlord. Like, because the tenant also pays lower energy cost, whereas there is some cost to capital to the landlord. So the whole plan is about, we haven't like baked that into a model, but the plan was about like spend like 50% of the savings that are coming in due to the less energy due to the less energy cost, and give it to landlords. So that will offset it.
No, what I'm saying is, if you've given me a loan and I own a building and I now improve my building, what's to stop me from doubling my rent and saying, okay, this is a really great building and now you need to pay more to be in it?
Yes, I'll help take that one. So there, it's not specified in here, but there will need to also be monitoring of who the tenant profile is at the beginning, right? Because we did specify at the beginning, it does need to be these essential workforce professionals, but also during the course of the loan, right? To make sure that profile doesn't materially change and all of a sudden, you're going for people that make 3 times the income because you've improved the property. And for that, it is a fine line because we don't want to be super restrictive in that if you're just a little bit over, you fall out of the program, but there will have to be a clause that basically says during the life of this loan, you can't just all of a sudden go and completely change your tenant profile. So I think that is the best way. And also there is, and that's more important on market rent terms, because in California, existing tenants have a rent control. But for new tenants, that's where landlords could have that risk, right, of completely changing the profile. So that will be more the concern in the enforcement of this loan.
Can you explain a little bit about how you'll ensure that the improvements that they're making are truly energy efficient or climate resilient? Or will you be reviewing contracts with the contractors, or know that those contractors are certified? Can you speak more about that?
Yeah. So if you'll see, like the first initial 2 years, we are talking about how to build the community partners and establish relationships. These relationships are among the contractors that are there, and also like the NGOs who want to like help improve the living conditions. So that's where these people will come in and help PNC figure out and also like enforce it. So like, for example, like this company that we talked about, Revalue. So how they will only take, they will help these building landowners get government funding, like whatever grants they can get, and also other loans that they can, and they will only do improvements for energy efficiency. So like, for example, changing a water heater, adding some solar panels, removing your windows, and things like that. So there needs to be some partnership and some trust on that piece.
To bring in,
Yeah.
to bring in that expertise. Otherwise, it will fall all on PNC, and that's a lot.
That's a lot.
A lot. So more that technical expertise and why those assessments are required, so PNC understands what kind of scope of improvements will be done, and then they can monitor with these community partners, monitor afterwards to make sure they are working effectively.
Because like while doing the solution, our whole aim was to expand the customer base that PNC has, like while giving and keeping the value. Like we didn't want to come up with some solution that closes tomorrow just because it's too good to be true. So.
Thank you. So, there was a point brought up about long-term affordability. Say in 5-10 years after the savings from the actual loan are materialized, what is going to stop the landlord from selling that property? There could be a great profit in that after putting in all these upgrades, and then, unfortunately displacing that entire community. So are there any covenants or anything built into the contracts that may protect against those type of actions?
Yeah, that's a down risk, and that's part of underwriting that will need to go, because of course PNC is taking a lot of risk in this case. But that's where like the carbon credits is also something that we have thought about, because we were looking at case studies. So the one that Revalue saved, that was about like I think around like $60,000 just in carbon credits if we value it at a certain number. So that's like where it will offset. But I
do think, to add to that, it is also a lot on who the borrower is, right? Because definitely there are the numerical metrics, can you repay this, things like that. But also, is this company, focused on environmental, social governance incentives? Are they connected with the communities they serve? You know, are they mindful of who they will sell to? What kind of characteristics the properties have? So I think that is an important factor as well, and it's probably best enforced by some kind of qualitative covenant of some sort. But I think that will help drive demand, because I think those will be the first to want to even undertake this project. And then that will also be a helpful factor in making sure that they don't just turn around and flip the building in a few years to someone that will just, you know, completely jack up the rents. So I think that borrower profile will be important, and I think warrants further investigation as to how to exactly write a covenant that specifies that in a way that is also administratively workable.